He said he loved her, she said she had a secret. Hours later, she was dead. What began with vows, ended in violence, and when detectives arrived, they found a scene soaked in blood, silence, and a question no one wanted to ask: what if the person you married wasn't the person you thought they were? They were the couple everyone admired, the perfect pair on Instagram, smiling under rose petals and fairy lights, but behind closed doors, she was hiding something she feared would cost her everything, and he was hiding a rage no one ever saw coming. On their wedding night, that secret came out, and what followed wasn't just a betrayal, it was a brutal execution of trust, love, and identity. This is not just a story about a murder, it's about the fine line between love and control, between truth and tragedy. Lena Hart was known for her smile, the kind that lit up the room and ended awkward silences, a free-spirited artist who believed in second chances, and in keeping some things to herself. Friends described her as warm, but also guarded, as if part of her never fully arrived. She left a progressive art community in Austin to settle in Milltown, a decision some found curious, even confusing. Caleb Morgan, on the other hand, was Milltown through and through, raised with structure, discipline, and very clear lines between right and wrong. A former Marine who returned home with medals and a strong need for order, his charm came in short, gruff doses, the kind people either feared or respected. Together, Lena and Caleb were unexpected, but love doesn't always make sense, and in a town where everyone thinks they know your business, sometimes, the truth stays hidden behind rehearsed smiles and Sunday barbecues. Until it doesn't. Can love survive if built on a secret? Or is the truth always the end? Drop your thoughts below. 3 days after Lena's murder, investigators opened a drawer no one had touched, not even Caleb. Inside was a journal. Small, worn, filled with confessions never meant for anyone else. "I thought I could be someone else for him," she wrote, "but that lie is killing me." In those pages, Lena detailed the internal war she'd been waging, how she had once loved a woman, how she thought moving, starting over, marrying Caleb, might fix what she believed was broken, but the truth was still there. In her. And it was growing louder. She hadn't cheated. She hadn't lied about love, but she had hidden a part of herself, because the world, and maybe Caleb, had made her afraid. Caleb's friends would later say he was acting strange on the honeymoon night, that something had snapped, but was it betrayal he felt? Was Lena's truth too much for him, or did it force him to confront his own insecurities? The town was divided. Some called her selfish, others called him a killer who couldn't handle the truth. On the surface, it was a wedding every couple dreams of. The venue was rustic and elegant. The dress, handmade lace. The speeches, heartfelt. Friends and family posted hashtags about forever love. But forever lasted less than a day. What guests didn't see was Lena, in her bridal suite, breaking down moments before walking the aisle. The makeup artist thought it was nerves. The maid of honor said it was overwhelming joy, but Lena knew the tears were something else, fear. That night, after the cake had been cut and the guests had gone, Lena sat Caleb down in their honeymoon suite. She told him she had something to say, something she should have said a long time ago. She told him she was gay, not that she didn't love him. Not that their time meant nothing, but that for years, she had been trying to be the person people wanted her to be. She thought if she could just be a good wife, a good woman, a good partner, she could bury what she felt. That she could change, but standing at the altar, something shifted. The lie, it screamed in her chest, and in that quiet moment in the hotel room, she let the truth out. We'll never know exactly what happened next, but hours later, at 4:17 a.m., a 911 call came in from the front desk. We heard screaming. Something's wrong in room 214, when officers arrived. Lena was dead. Caleb was sitting in the corner, covered in blood, rocking back and forth, whispering, "She lied. She lied. She lied." What would you have done in Lena's place? Could you marry someone while hiding such a truth, even if it meant survival? At 3:42 a.m., a call came into dispatch. Caleb Morgan was on the line. His voice was shaky. He claimed Lena had fallen. No details. No urgency. Just shock. But when officers arrived just minutes later, the story changed. The door was unlocked. The room was still. Caleb sat on the carpet, slumped against the wall, blood smeared across his arms. Lena's body was crumpled at the foot of the bed, lifeless. Cold. The mirror near the dresser was shattered. Her wedding dress, still half folded in a garment bag, had been ripped down the middle. The room smelled of roses. An iron. Police immediately noticed inconsistencies, defensive wounds on Lena's arms, signs she fought back, the bruises on her wrists. The gash above her eyebrow. This wasn't a fall, this wasn't an accident, this was an eruption. Of rage. Of confusion. Of betrayal, perceived or otherwise, the kind of rage that builds slowly, then explodes all at once. Neighbors in the adjoining room told officers they heard thuds, not one, but several, followed by yelling, a woman's voice pleading, "Please. Caleb. Just listen." Then silence. A final crash. Then nothing. Caleb never tried to run. He never asked for help. When officers questioned him, he muttered again and again, "She lied to me. She lied to me," over and over, as if those words somehow justified the blood on his hands. Detectives began treating the room as a homicide scene. Photographs were taken. Evidence collected. Caleb was taken into custody, but the question hung in the air like smoke from a fire still smoldering. What really happened between "I do" and "she's gone"? Was this a moment of temporary madness? Or something darker already inside Caleb? As police delved deeper into Lena Hart's life, it became clear, she was living in two realities. One, the smiling, newlywed artist planning a honeymoon in Rome. The other, a woman slowly suffocating under a truth she feared would destroy her. On her personal laptop, investigators uncovered Lena's recent search history. Terms like "how to survive coming out in a straight marriage," "will he hate me if I tell him," "can a gay woman still be a good wife?" These weren't random curiosities. They were silent cries for help. Typed alone at night, behind closed doors, her best friend, Ava, came forward with a message Lena had sent just 2 days before the wedding. It read, "I want to be honest, but I'm scared. He loves me, but not all of me. I thought I could fake it. But I'm drowning." Ava told detectives Lena had decided to tell Caleb after the wedding, not to deceive him, but to protect herself. She didn't know what he would do. And honestly, neither did I. But what about Caleb? His background revealed more than anyone expected. A military veteran, discharged early after incidents of emotional instability and a bar fight in Germany that left another soldier hospitalized. His service records mentioned untreated PTSD symptoms and difficulty managing anger under stress. Court documents showed a sealed domestic disturbance report from 2019 involving an ex-girlfriend. No charges were filed, but the file existed. Detectives began to suspect Lena's fears weren't just emotional. They were survival instincts. Then came a critical breakthrough. Caleb's phone, recovered messages between him and a friend from his hometown revealed something chilling. "Friend, you sure about marrying this artsy chick?" Caleb, "Yeah. She's weird sometimes, but I'll get her straightened out." Caleb, "She talks like she's hiding something though." But I'll handle it. That last message, sent just 3 days before the wedding, police began to piece together a timeline. Lena had been preparing to speak her truth. But Caleb may have already sensed it, and if his texts were any indication, he didn't plan to accept it. Do you think Lena should have told him before the wedding, or was she protecting herself from the danger she feared? Let us know in the comments. By the time Caleb Morgan stood trial, this was no longer just a case about what happened in a bedroom at 3:42 a.m. It had become something much bigger, a battle between two Americas, one fighting for empathy and identity, the other clinging to outrage and betrayal. The defense argued Caleb suffered a full-blown psychological break, triggered by betrayal, PTSD, and shock. They claimed that Lena's confession on their wedding night fractured his mind, leaving him disoriented and dangerous. One psychiatrist testified, he didn't see a person in front of him. He saw every fear, every threat, every war memory at once. They played footage of Caleb's military deployments and highlighted childhood trauma, a father who beat him for being soft, a mother who left when he was 9. The narrative was clear. Caleb, they argued, wasn't a monster. He was broken long before that wedding night, but the prosecution didn't back down. To them, this wasn't a breakdown, it was premeditated hate. Lena Hart wasn't a threat. She was just honest. And for that, she paid with her life. They pointed to the text messages, the bruises and patterns consistent with strangulation, not a sudden burst of violence, but a prolonged and deliberate attack, the journal entries, the Google searches, and the clincher, a recorded phone call from jail where Caleb told his cousin, "She was gonna embarrass me. I couldn't let that happen." The courtroom was divided. Lena's mother broke down as she took the stand. "My daughter wasn't a liar. She was afraid. She just wanted to be loved for who she was." Caleb's sister cried too. "He's not hateful. He just snapped. He was betrayed. You don't know what that does to a man like him." Outside the courtroom, the world was watching. Online forums exploded with debates. Some said Lena was brave, a victim of fear and intolerance. Others insisted Caleb was the victim, misled, pushed to the edge by something he wasn't ready to accept. The judge ordered extra security. People wearing pride colors were heckled outside. Commentators called it a trial about murder and a referendum on identity. And through it all, the only voice that remained silent was Lena's. After 8 days of testimony, after 27 witnesses, 6 hours of deliberation, and 2 families shattered by grief, the jury finally spoke. Caleb Morgan was found guilty of second-degree murder, not a crime of premeditation, but one of unrelenting rage. He was sentenced to 30 years in state prison, 30 years behind bars for a crime that took just minutes to unfold, but a lifetime to explain. In the courtroom, Caleb's face remained still, no tears, no outburst. Just a long, hollow stare ahead. His lawyer whispered something in his ear. Caleb nodded once. Lena's mother, however, broke the silence. Standing before the court with her voice trembling, she said, "My daughter lived in fear of being who she truly was. She tried to be someone she wasn't, and it killed her. You don't get to say you were hurt when she was the one who died." Outside, news cameras flashed as Lena's friends lit candles at the courthouse steps. A photo of her, smiling, head tilted just so, rested against a framed sign that read, "Truth shouldn't be a death sentence." Caleb's family left quickly, escorted by deputies. They didn't speak to the press. Inside, his sister wept quietly as her brother was led away in shackles. And then, it was over. One trial, one conviction, but the wounds left behind, they'd take much longer to heal. Lena was laid to rest under a silver maple tree behind her childhood church. Her headstone reads, "Artist, dreamer, loved deeply, Died being honest. But in Milltown, Illinois, people still argue, was Caleb Morgan a murderer blinded by rage, or a broken man who snapped when reality didn't match the life he thought he'd built? What do you believe justice looks like in this case? Did 30 years feel right, or was it too much, or not enough? Let me know your thoughts below. The town of Milltown hadn't seen anything like it, not the murder, not even the trial, but what came next, the silence. The reflection, the storm of questions no one wanted to ask. But couldn't stop asking. In the weeks after the verdict, Lena Hart's name left the courtroom and entered the headlines. Pundits debated whether Caleb was a monster, or a man pushed past the edge. Was he a killer fueled by hatred, or a broken heart reacting to what he felt was betrayal? But for many in the LGBTQ community, it wasn't a question of motive, it was a reminder of danger, of how being honest can sometimes mean being unsafe, of how coming out, even to someone you love, can carry the risk of death. Lena's story ignited conversations in households, classrooms, churches, and courtrooms. Advocacy groups called for better protections. Some states proposed new legislation to address crimes of rage triggered by personal revelations, often called panic defenses. Her parents, devastated but determined, launched the Lena Hart Truth Scholarship, awarded to LGBTQ youth pursuing the arts. In their words, "We want to make sure another Lena doesn't die hiding who they are, and another Caleb doesn't think anger is a defense for murder." In high schools across the state, Lena's story became part of workshops about identity, truth, and the importance of safety in relationships. Social media flooded with hashtags, #Justice for Lena, #Truth is not a betrayal, #Panic is no excuse. Her old art studio now holds a small exhibition in her honor, sketches, paintings, and a note she once wrote in charcoal on the wall: "One day, I'll be free to just be me." Without fear, she never lived to see that day, but her story ensures that others might. As for Milltown, some moved on, others still whisper when they walk past the courthouse or see Lena's mural on Main Street. But the conversation, about gender, identity, honesty, and what happens when love meets fear, has been started, and it's not going away. Should the justice system treat rage after personal revelations as temporary insanity, or premeditated violence? What do you think? Caleb's sentence really says about how we value truth, identity, and life itself. Let me know your thoughts below. She smiled at her wedding, but cried behind the veil. He kissed her with vows, but never truly knew the person standing beside him. Lena Hart didn't die because she was dishonest. She died because the world sometimes makes honesty feel like a threat. And for Caleb Morgan, the truth wasn't just shocking, it was an explosion he couldn't contain. He said she betrayed him, but others say she was finally trying to live as herself. What do you believe? Was this a tragedy fueled by deception, or a hate crime wrapped in wedding lace? This case asks uncomfortable questions. Should your partner know everything before I do? Is silence ever protection, or just delay before devastation? Lena Hart's story isn't just one murder, it's a mirror, a reminder that love without truth isn't love, and truth without safety is a gamble too many still face. One woman is dead, one man will grow old behind bars, but what really killed Lena? A secret, a fear, or a man who couldn't bear that the person he loved was not who he imagined? If you want more real-life stories where secrets turn deadly, where love turns to rage, and truth comes too late, subscribe to Dark True Crime Stories. Hit the bell icon, because you never know whose story we'll uncover next. And remember, sometimes the scariest crimes begin with a kiss.